Hi there. Thanks for joining us today. And Really glad to have you here. I'm David Potes. I am a senior manager of analytics specialist at AWS. I'll be your host. I'll also be answering a few questions of myself today. And we're going to be talking in fireside chat mode with Impetus and Marsh. Just to kind of kick things off, I first want to welcome Rajan. Naga, he's a seasoned data and analytics leader with over 20 years of experience in finance and the insurance domains. And he has a lot of experience in robust data platforms, enabling cutting edge analytics. Currently, he's a senior vice president for Marsh and is responsible for the big data platform capabilities and operations. A big analytics evangelist and a big fan, just like me, for the cause of democratizing data. So welcome, Rajan. And then we have Mita Baxi. She's a seasoned big data and cloud solution architect, another very experienced person with more than 18 years of experience in the big data domain and with a significant chunk of that with AWS Cloud. And she's done it more than once. She's helped several of her customers solve their data engineering challenges, both on-prem in the cloud. And as mentioned, I'm a senior manager of partner solution architects, and I lead a worldwide team at AWS. I've been doing this for a while too, so 17 plus years with intense customer focus in multiple industries. I've always sought out very challenging and deeply technical roles. If you ever catch me in an aside, I hold both a world record and a number of patents. So welcome everybody. Glad to have you here. I'm glad to dive in and see what we can learn about what you guys did. But first, I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that enterprises have in today's data-driven world, and some of the challenges that they face in terms of democratizing their data. So I've got some statistics for you. We know we did. There's the Forrester did a study, and data-driven organizations, on average, grow at 30% plus annually, which is much faster than kind of the baseline rate. Yet two-thirds of these organizations report they're still unable to realize kind of the full value from their data, and only about a quarter of the survey respondents have a data strategy in place. And we know that we actually got a report from Forbes. The average increase in net income for a data-driven company is 65 million with a 415% 5-year ROI, and they do it at reduced cost. So the total cost of operations generally is cut in half. So some pretty compelling numbers out there in terms of why and how and kind of the value of it. But I want to jump over to Mita since this is a fireside chat. We forget to bring the fire. It's against the fire code. So Mita, how can a cloud-based unified data platform help democratize data across the enterprise? What are you seeing?
Okay. So, thanks for the question, David, and great intro out there. So, you can certainly democratize data on cloud, given you have right governance strategy in place. And for that, the first step would be, to provide right access to right people in making your data easily discoverable. And to do that, you will need to catalog all your enterprise assets and let your governance body define and enforce access control as well as usage guidelines around it. So doing this would not only let you democratize your data, but also, it will save you from turning the data lake into a swamp.
Yeah, and the data swamp, that's just like a real swamp. You get your feet dirty, and you're not too excited when you went in there. So I want to go to Raja next. Tell us a little bit about Marsh's cloud data platform journey, and particularly, what were the business drivers as you were conceptualizing this move?
Absolutely, David. By the way, I agree with what all Meeta said to begin with. So I represent Marsh. Marsh, as you all know, is a subsidiary of Marsh McLennan Companies. We are a global leader in insurance broking and risk management services. So several years ago, we saw a trend with companies in insurtech investing big time into their respective digital transformations. So we were ahead of the game as well. And our digital transformation journey started nearly 5 years ago with APIs and cloud technologies as its core. And we focused on mainly three areas. Number one, modernize existing data products to provide consistent and a unified experience to our clients. Number two, develop newer insights products combining with existing data with the data that is available untapped within the company as well as available with our partners. And the third area, of course, is the new business initiatives as additional revenue streams for the company. This is where I would like to point out a branded platform, Bluestream, which happened to be our flagship for digital within March.
That's great. And then, so second, kind of a follow-up question, and I appreciate the customer obsession there. We share that both individually and as companies. But I guess what were some of can you dig into some of the challenges that you guys were looking to solve as you kind of went through the implementation phase?
Yes, absolutely, David. As a company, we had a huge global footprint and we have many policy administration, acquisitions, and servicing systems across the globe, meeting to the needs of local jurisdictions, languages, currencies, and so forth. As a company, we wanted to modernize, effectively engage and service our clients with unified experience, speed and agility, and complying to guidelines at all times. The business growth demanded that we handle huge volumes of data coupled with a wide variety of data, pushing us to cloud and big data systems.
That's fantastic. And the regulatory challenges in your industry, they cannot be sidestepped, right? And we see that with a lot of customers. Between government regulation, data residency requirements, things like California privacy, GDPR. There's about 50 data privacy regulations around the world. And then, the demands of the people inside the business. We see that quite a bit, whether that is a business like the NFL looking to do next generation stats with their analytics, companies like Bristol Myers Squibb looking to do drug discovery. And, what I always think about is it boils down to there's an old adage in IT, it's people, process, and technology. And I think, at times as a technologist, it's easier to solve the technological challenges than it sometimes is to solve the people and process challenges. And from our perspective, from AWS, from my personal perspective as well, I share this. The way that we frame these challenges is we rotate around kind of three words. So modernize, unify, and innovate. So, just like Rajan talked about, as you're thinking about going on this journey, it is the modernization of your data products, your data systems, and your data processes that will really get you to the next step so that you can start to innovate. And then we think about unifying the data without turning it into a data swamp. And I'm going to have Mita talk about that in a little bit. And then that unlocks the ability to innovate, whether that's innovating around shorter time to market, whether that's innovating around better ways to serve your customers, or is that innovation allowing companies to deliver new products and new value to their customers. So we see quite a bit of that. One of my favorite stories is we worked with a company in their job. They were looking to prevent sepsis. And sepsis, if you don't know, is something that kills quite a few people per year. It is basically a blood infection. And what they had to do was get data to the edge, to the doctor's office, to the urgent care places, to the people that could actually do that work. And the key to that is really data democratization. So I do want to kind of dive into that a little bit. But we're definitely seeing some of the same challenges and drivers that you are, Rajan. So I wanted to go to Rajan. So we have Impetus here. Impetus, AWS, and Marsh kind of joined forces to get this project going. Really, really curious, like what brought you to Impetus? Like, what do you see as their strengths, and how does having a partner with you on this journey in general help you get there?
Yeah, sure, David. Also, in line with what you are saying, as we all know, open source tools such as Hadoop and NoSQL were not truly enterprise grade with their own complexities. So, with cloud and APIs becoming core to our digital strategy, risks of not having the cloud totally outweighed the risks of its use. Right? So, and partnering with a leading commercial vendor in this space became the need of the hour. Okay. So, AWS was our top choice, obviously, because they met our requirements. And in the process, we also got the opportunity to partner with the industry leader. Impetus, it's a leading digital services engineering company that has helped many clients grow and innovate over the years in the space, and their niche happens to be big data and cloud technologies. So several of us on the Marsh data team were part of a journey along with Impetus in terms of building a huge on-prem big data system for a huge financial company. So all this made it a easy and a logical choice going with Impetus on this journey.
That's fantastic. And what we see kind of consistently, I work with partners day in and day out, and what I see very consistently is that taking somebody that's done something many times to help you on a journey, it's kind of like having a guide on the path. Helps you get there faster, makes sure you get there to the right place, and kind of limits the pathways you go down that you shouldn't. So it keeps you on the right path. So I want to go to you, Mita, and I guess Marsh calls you guys in. You're the expert. What's kind of your process in terms of helping a customer like Marsh? How do you get them from point A to point B and on to point C someday?
Sure. So we became part of Marsh digital transformation journey way back in 2018. Marsh looked at us like a senior cloud partner who would help realize the modernization goals that they had set out. And the overall idea was to bring incremental value, in a very phased manner. So that is where we started with a very, initial requirement, which we call out as an MVP release. And it required us to create a data lake on AWS supporting basic ingestion capabilities, but with non-functional aspects like configurable, automated, etc. Our architecture teams worked with Marsh stakeholders out there and to prioritize the foundational capabilities, and we created a roadmap on what all foundational capabilities we want to work on in together and how we want to realize the goal that we are targeting for. Now, as part of this MVP, we created a very comprehensive catalog that contained both business and operational metadata. It had capability for users to tag the PII data, and they could also go about and configure validation and curation rules. So this catalog not only made our data discoverable from day one of its creation, it also acted as a configuration for driving our automated pipelines. So as soon as any catalog feed arrived in S3, our custom pipeline would get auto-triggered, run applicable transformations on EMR, and make the data available for consumption. Once we had reached this point, we had to get an attestation from business, demonstrate the value we have brought in. And that is where Bluestream, that was a new flagship product in affinity domain at that point in time, was onboarded. And we saw how with a very fast pace they were able to build analytical applications on top of data lake. With this success, other products like Link and Blue Eye claims also followed the suit. uh, this this was the turning point where the platform was getting adopted and a lot of new use cases were getting onboarded. That is when, in the background we stepped up our focus on enhancing the data governance and security robustness, while Marsh worked on creating the governing body that comprised of personas like business data stewards, technical data stewards, privacy approvers, and we worked on translating those processes to a UI based simplified configurations, and also kind of integrated them across all applicable data related applications. So this really helped us bring in the much needed persona based granular level access controls on board. As I mentioned, the platform usage was continuously increasing. A lot of new use cases were getting onboarded, not just from the ingestion perspective, but also from developing analytical capability on top of that. And we had to ensure that it can operate seamlessly in an economically viable manner. So our operations team there, collaborated with extended global teams on Marsh side, and we set out the overall focus, to enhance the system robustness. Our teams work round the clock to improve the security aspects, both on the infra side and data side. uh, DevOps team automated, all routines and integration patterns that were in place. We enabled extensive monitoring capabilities and added a lot of cost optimizations, on top of that. Our DevOps team essentially became a driver for creating a unified self-serve portal to manage all the leading capabilities that we have. So, David, you talked about unifying the things. So, as we were into this journey, we saw that our complexities around integration and management kept on, piling up as we implemented newer capabilities. This requirement to have a single unified pane where you can manage all your governance capabilities, all your data quality capabilities, all your ingestion capabilities, all DevOps related capabilities was the need of the hour. And once we were at that point in time, it kind of became a repetitive pattern for us. So every new requirement has to go through a governance capability, had to go through automation capability. And today, if I look back, we have a lot of niche capabilities in platform today. We have zero code serverless pipelines. We have automated failure recovery in place. Data quality certification is well integrated as a self-serve capability. So if I kind of try and summarize all of these, it is our cloud platform is a very effective solution to most of the data engineering challenges that are there when you're working with large size data. And I believe we are committed to partner with you and Marsh to continue making this platform even more better and sustainable.
That's awesome. And we'll talk about what's in the future here in a little bit. I'm going to go to Rajan in a second to have him talk about the journey. But I wanted to kind of orient us back. So when I talked about modernize, unify, and innovate, that's exactly what Meet is talking about too. And the key is that if you follow these three pillars, what happens, and I see this pretty consistently, you can move and store any amount of data at scale. You can access that data seamlessly, manage who has access to the data with the proper security and governance controls. And the best part is you're getting the best price and performance or price performance without sacrificing performance itself. So remember, scalable data lakes, purpose-built data services, seamless data movement, unified governance, performant, cost-effective. Like that's really the key that we're trying to see here. And as you democratize your data, again, I want to underscore the notion in the sense that you really have to think about it from a people and process standpoint. So notice how Mita talked about the people, adjusting the processes, because it is a culture change as well as you move to this environment. So Rajan, I want to give you kind of the same question, I guess the converse or the inverse. Talk to me about how impetus came in and helped you get from point A to point B. Would love to hear your perspective here.
Sure, David. So extending on upon whatever Mita described, right? As you all know, we are into our 5th year of this journey. And what have we done so far? By the way, it has been a very gratifying experience for us, many of us, the data team. To date, we have built a top-notch big data lake platform powering digital applications wherein we provide best experience to our clients, render insights products, seamless onboarding of new clients. So with the unexpected event in COVID, coupled with the huge demand for digital insurance products, made our platform even more vibrant. So this platform has state-of-art capabilities complying to guidelines, security controls, granular access controls to row and column levels, besides handling volume, structured and unstructured data, and seamless integration with a host of UI tools to query and analyze data and to experience the actionable reports and dashboards. The platform has a host of self-service capabilities, many of which Mita just described, in terms of quick onboarding of use cases, on-demand deployments, all these helping speed to market as well as improve upon the return on investments. So one impactful thing I would like to touch upon in this 5 years journey, the data lake platform came out in flying colors as part of the audit compliance that was carried out last year by the MMC audit team. So we also have a fully functional, fully tested out disaster recovery system in Europe. The digital transformation journey that focused on the 3 areas has led to 3 branded platforms for Marsh. So we have done press releases periodically introducing these to the market, to the insurtech industry. They are in the same order: Link, Blue Eye, and the flagship of our organization, Bluestream. So this has been the journey which has been so gratifying for many of us in the last 5 years, David.
That's fantastic. Love to hear that. Sue, from my perspective, you're not alone. We see a lot of companies making this journey. I mentioned the NFL earlier. Major League Baseball also does some next-gen analytics with us. Whether that's in financial services to help companies reduce fraud, which is a big deal in financial services, or to better serve their customers. I know that my financial services companies could probably do a better job sometimes of sending me less things in the mail that I'm not interested in. We see it across healthcare. So I mentioned the thing with sepsis. We saw an explosion of healthcare and life sciences products and projects as we kind of went through COVID, whether that's at the clinical level, at the hospital level, or with providers and payers. We see it in industries like mining, automotive. We really are seeing a strong inflection point. I tend to see these every 2 to 3 years as cool new tools, and kind of exciting approaches to managing data. Like when I started this, we called it big data. Now we just call it data, but there's still a ton of it. And we're all dealing with kind of the classic 3 V's of big data. So velocity, variety, and volume. And if you want to look at, if you like looking at hockey stick curves, look at the growth of the data in your enterprise as well. You'll definitely see that. So great success. You guys were able to move faster with a partner like Impetus. And I definitely recommend that you take a partner on the journey with you. But I guess like for you, Rajan, like kind of looking forward next 5 years, like what are you guys looking to do? Like what kind of additional capabilities do you think you can onboard to this platform? And how is that going to impact your business? I'm really curious.
Yeah, absolutely, David. In fact, you covered a couple of these points already. So we are evaluating many use cases in the emerging insurance space, okay, such as insurance telematics, parametric insurance, location data cleansing and analytics, predictive analysis, etc. So besides these newer opportunities which we are looking into, we want to stay focused on 4 core areas. First one of which is data, obviously data volumes. So we want to continue to focus in terms of handling large data sets from a storage and processing perspective to facilitate modeling, trend analysis, predictive analytics, and things of that sort. You also said big data is fast becoming data. So that's where we want to move the needle and start looking at fast data or actionable data and insights. So we want to do real-time streaming and analytics, helping derive insights with a millisecond kind of response wherever needed, enabling we act on the run in making business decisions. Another huge area, huge big bet for us, affordable AI. So as you said, AWS is helping provision AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning platforms coupled with connectors to open source packages. This is making technologies come closer to not only sophisticated users, but also non-IT savvy users and data scientists. And the last point I would say is data security and privacy. We have the need to implement a unified approach versus a siloed approach. So we should have the ability to administer granular access controls, covering all touch points we have within the system. So these are the 4 areas we are going to focus besides evaluating newer opportunities. David.
And you're not alone in being at some stage of that machine learning and AI journey as well. I have a slide somewhere, and it shows machine learning as an iceberg, and it's about 10% ML and 90% data wrangling. So the foundational work that companies like Marsh are doing in terms of building a modern data platform, that is literally what will unlock advanced ML capabilities. And when I talk to people that aren't really in tech, I tell them that you can't see it yet, but companies are coming online with amazing machine learning capabilities, and all that's done with the foundation of the modern data architecture, democratizing data so that data scientists, business analysts, sales leaders, the folks that can really kind of action on the data, like they have access to it. And I love your note about real-time/fast data. Generally I say there's 2 kinds of companies, companies that have a real-time data strategy and companies that need one. So it looks like you're definitely progressing on the right path there. I want to go to Mita. You've been doing this for quite a while. You've done a ton of implementations, I know. What do you think are the core capabilities of a modern data platform on AWS? And what is it in those capabilities that create the right foundation for enterprises?
So, application modernization itself requires you to adapt to a new way of thinking. There are a lot of new technologies, a lot of new implementation patterns that you need to learn and adopt to. So, in my opinion, how you strategize and plan your execution is more critical than what functional capabilities you want to build on, really. So data platform per se would primarily be targeting at solving your data engineering challenges in terms of governance capabilities, in terms of data accuracy, certifications, and some of the aspects that Rajan talked about, how we build fast data, how we provide the AI capabilities on top of it. But I would recommend that you start as a first step, you assess the business drivers that are driving modernization. You already are aware about what are the current challenges and areas of improvements. You should work on translating them into desired business outcomes. Once you do that, create a roadmap and track the execution or track how you are reaching towards those business outcomes. uh, of course, you can pick multiple business outcomes in parallel and deliver value incrementally. And last but not the least, you should address any culture or skill gaps that are there. You should consider onboarding experts. You should look at possibility, if there is any kind of restructuring within the organization or team level is required to adapt to this new paradigm. So from my perspective, if you follow these strategic effects, they would very effectively lead you towards the transformation that you're looking forward to.
That's fantastic. And you talked a little bit about the culture piece, about training. Have you seen people kind of adapt to kind of new environments? Have you seen them be able to retrain, or is it kind of a big challenge for people? What do you see actually in the field, Mita?
So it has its own learning curve. So if you pick experts, you are moving towards an acceleration. If you plan to skill your people, then of course you have to take a very methodical approach. First, you have to change people's mindset. They are set in solving certain challenges in a certain way. So you have to bring them together. Also, it is not limited to a team level effort, especially when we are talking about data platforms, right? You have to bring in stakeholders from across your enterprise and understand what vision you want to lay out for it. You would not have multiple data platforms within an organization. It should be one single platform with which gives one view and vision across the board. So you have to understand those different challenges, align what is a priority for us, and thereafter start planning on how the gap between these skills and uh, how things are structured today should be sorted out.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely see that too. I would agree with that. Having the right organizational structure. I see companies with roles like data steward, and the moving data from the center out of the IT department and into the consumer's hands means that you're not just training data engineers anymore or DBAs. It's making sure that our business users are fluent, that the data scientists, have the right piece. And that's another place where I think that customers have an advantage in using a partner, because they can do that. They can advise you on how to organize best to take advantage. They can help with the culture change because anytime there is change, especially the flagship product, like Rajan was mentioning, like sometimes that can instill a little bit of fear in people. And what we want people to know is that there's a pathway, right? You're not going to lose your job. It's like we don't see that happening, but it does require you to upskill and take a different view. And the ultimately, and I can say this because I came out of IT long, long ago. The IT department does not own the data, right? Like their job is to facilitate the access and usage of the data for the business. So stand fast if you're in the business. Like you deserve this level of access. I believe in you. So thank you for that, Mita. And then I want to talk a little bit about, are there mistakes or pitfalls that could be avoided for customers embarking on this journey. And I think that a couple of things that I usually talk about, and I'll kind of go back to my three pillars: modernize, unify, innovate. One is that you can start at any process in this, so don't think of it as kind of a three-step journey, but more of kind of a circular mode. But one thing that I see a lot of is that companies are very excited to jump into machine learning and AI, and often, if you're not ready for that, you're going to struggle. So, the way to think about machine learning is that, is your data ready to be able to run those jobs? Does the question have a high impact? And do you have the skill set to take advantage of that? If you can get 2 out of 3, you're doing pretty good. 3 out of 3 is great. But you'll note that, having the data ready and able to consume is super important. Like I said earlier, 90% of ML is data wrangling. So what they won't tell you when you're getting your PhD, kind of getting there can be somewhat challenging. I think the other thing that we see a lot of is that data siloing. So whether that's siloing data at the organizational level, Conway's law comes into play here. Whether that is segmenting things based on the source system, you need to start breaking those down, because these processing systems, like, we want to process the data with the best system for it, right? So if I'm doing big map reduce jobs, then I want to use a tool like EMR, right? If I'm doing something that's highly relational, RDS database services, fantastic for that. And AWS, if you haven't checked in a while, we've got a whole suite of data and analytics services. So challenge number 2 that I see for people is trying to, what I call the Swiss Army knife problem, trying to do everything with the same tool. Find the right tool there. And the other thing that, and you'll hear this having come up a lot from Rajan, right? He talked about security. He talked about fine-grained access control. We have an old saying within Amazon: security is job zero. And that literally means that security of data, security of customer trust comes before everything else. If you don't have customer trust, you don't have a business. If you can't secure your data, you can't manage it, you can't profit from it. And then the fourth one of 3 is really think about, again, that people, process, and technology. Like, this is change. Change is challenging for most people, and working within a supportive environment that understands, like, kind of the change, right? Don't expect to be able to cut over on Friday and then train everybody on Monday, right? You have to prepare people for that. These processes and projects are not short. So I would definitely kind of think about that. And ultimately, your goal should be to get data in the hands of the people that can use it best, whether that's a VP of sales looking at the quarterly reports, whether that's your industrial planners looking at defect rates, whether that's the finance folks making sure that we all get our paychecks. Like, we need to get that data out there and do that. So I'm going to come back to Rajan. So you've done it enterprise scale, right? Like, this is the biggest of the big. What would be your advice to the folks listening today?
That's a good question, David. Extending on top of what you and Meeta covered so far, I want to do a quick rundown of 4 points that I want to say in terms of addressing your question, right? Number 1, think cloud for obvious reasons, be it storage, elasticity, faster time to market, or whatever else. Second point I would say is store when it comes to data and metadata. Whether you think you need this data today or not, believe me, you will need it. So for your predictive analysis, for your trend analytics, or for your historic model development, model creation, training, whatever else, right? And the third point I will make is have a clear vision of what you want to accomplish that you cannot do with the current infrastructure and architecture. And the last logical extension that I want to make is we should come out of the mindset one size fits all approach. We should come out of it and take a broader approach. Combination of technologies and tools is the way to go. So just wanted this 4-point rundown.
That's a great rundown. And I love the notion of store because the core of machine learning and any sort of advanced analytics is more data, better outcomes, as long as you can efficiently and performantly manage it. And the tools get stronger every year. So you've been on this journey. I've been on this journey. Mita's been on this journey. Like the capabilities that we have today, even compared to just a few years ago, I would urge you to go and look at what we've released for Redshift in the last 18 months, or what we've released for QuickSight in the last 18 months, and I'm blown away every day. I'm completely biased, as an AWS person, but it still blows me away. So I want to thank the both of you for joining today. Rajan, Mita, you guys were some fantastic speakers to talk with, and really enjoyed that. So we've got some questions coming in from the panel, or from Q&A. So I'd love hearing your questions. So please, anybody that wants to get an answer in real time, feel free to drop them in there. And in a couple of minutes, or maybe a minute, there's a poll that will appear on your screen. We live and die on feedback, so please give us your feedback. Of course, I like pats on the back, but if there's something that we could have done better, or topics that we could have hit that would have been really interesting, would love to hear that. We're always looking for opportunities to make things better. So you'll see it pop up in the chat. I think it's just forced it on me. So that means it's working. So couple of questions in here. We got a question. This one is for me. So how much expertise does AWS have in IoT? If Marsh and its clients has wanted to capture the offsite data in real time. And I can definitely talk to that. So AWS, again, to sound like a broken record, but the things that we can do in IoT compared to just a few years ago are amazing. And the big challenge in IoT is not so much data volume. It can be sometimes challenging to get messages from these devices into the cloud. And if you're using a protocol like MQTT, that's really designed to overcome some of those challenges. Think about links that may go down from the factory floor or from point of sale devices. It can be challenging in terms of message retrieval and accessibility. We have a native IoT service. We actually have a whole suite of services, to be fair. And then once you kind of have that data into the cloud, it becomes something that you can process as a pipeline, just like kind of any other data. It's a different format, different sequence, often time series, but once you kind of get it there, you can do quite a bit with it. So take a look at our native IoT services, Uday, and I know that you know uh, it's something that really allows you to do that. And we see a ton of applications in IoT, both in the industrial and the home consumer space. So my guess is that everybody on this webinar has some sort of IoT device in their house, whether you know it or not. I live in California, so we have smart meters, which are kind of the one of the classic kind of edge use cases. So thank you for that question. And short answer is yes. So I have a question for you, Rajan. Ashish is interested in what other solutions and services is Marsh using from the AWS stack. And reading between the lines, I think Ashish might be curious about things maybe outside of analytics. Where are you doing experiments, and what's having impact?
Yeah, sure, David. So, as you know, AWS has hundreds of managed services So whenever I have a problem, I first want to look at whether there is a managed AWS service that can do the job for me. And secondly, I will also look at how far it has matured in terms of being FedRAMP compliant or whatever else may be the case, right? And my first choice is to go in for a managed service. So the reason being faster development and easy and a quick paced development to meet our business objectives, right?
Yep.
So with this said, to date, we have onboarded a host of AWS services, maybe around 50. I would say many more are in our pipeline in terms of onboarding because each one takes it a while. For example, we are actively working on SageMaker in terms of making it a end-to-end platform for our model users, both to create, train, and to execute models, and also to do analytics, catering to some of the use cases we have. Right?
That's,
So we have a healthy
that's
pipeline,
fantastic.
that's all I can tell you.
That's fantastic. And good call out on the managed services. So I'll give you another inside Amazon saying is that what we want to do is help customers move away from what we call undifferentiated heavy lifting. I've been a DBA. Sorry to the DBAs out there, but it is not fun for somebody to pick that up. And if you can go to a service that takes care of all the backups and server operating system management, tweaking and tuning of the database itself, gives you more time to innovate, right? And ultimately, what we're trying to do is free customers out from the drudgery of having to kind of day-to-day manage those systems. So, fantastic call out there. And you're right. There's a service for just about everything, and if there isn't, let us know. We're famously customer feedback driven. So thanks for that, Rajan. So I'm going to go to you, Mita. I got a question for you. The questioner is really interested in if you could talk a little bit about more about your approach to training customer resources to move towards as particularly data scientists and the subject matter experts. So can you talk a little bit about that?
So, sure. Within Impetus, we have a lot of internal initiatives where we plan out training programs, and those training programs are time bound, all time bound. So we would have like sprint kind of execution, we could have marathon kind of execution, and we have long running programs as well that span for 6 months or over an year as well. And so all these programs that we have in house are tied tied with a case study. There is an actual problem statement which may be which we usually pick from one of our customer scenarios and let people group together. So it could be an individual assessment where people learn a set of technologies and try to apply them and solve the case study, or we also have initiatives, various initiatives where we create a group of people with different experience and maturity level and different set of skills, and they come together and try and solve a problem and build a solution out of it. So likewise, we also create a lot of accelerator programs where again we have see a common pattern across different projects, and we create a team around it and let them solve the problem and create it and convert it into a reusable component. So that is a general practice, and then this is applicable across different streams. So as the questioner is interested in knowing how we are approaching the data scientist approach, so we have a dedicated practice groups who would follow the same methodology but create well curated programs for those, and taking back this programs to an external audience, any external customer. So we are kind of working together with customer, understand what goals they want to achieve it, and thereafter we tailor it and we have team that is going to deliver and ensure the value is given.
That's fantastic, and thank you for that, Mita. The other thing that I would like to add on that is, there for folks that are looking to upskill or develop new skills. Like there is such a wealth of services out there. So you can work with your partner. There's education partners that have out there like A Cloud Guru. I learned a lot from them. And I'll give you another. One of our best kept secrets. If you search AWS Skill Builder, AWS actually has a ton of free classes out there. Some of them led by the experts on my team. So if you're interested in a particular service, so you want to learn more about data warehousing, so you want to go to Redshift, it's a fantastic opportunity. There has never been a better time for free knowledge in the history of human society. It really just kind of takes that drive, and just like learning a new language, practice, 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 and kind of steadily working on this stuff. You're not going to learn it overnight, but you could learn it over a month. So thanks for that, Mita. And I just want to thank the both of you, Mita, Rajan. Really enjoyed this time to chat. It's so fun to learn about what everybody's doing and to share information. Like as a tech community, I really value that and really value your participation. And special thanks to Rajan for being such a great customer. Really appreciate it. And I want to thank everybody that watched today. You got me to wear a collared shirt today, so thank you for that. And if you want to. If you have any follow-up inquiries, you want to ask more questions, or you have a really interesting data project, feel free to drop us a line, info@impetus.com, impetus.com. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. I sure will. This was a great way to start the day in Pacific time, so thank you.
Thanks, David.
David, thank you, Rajan.